Now at 5, a new soybean processing plant will bring jobs to southeast Kansas.
The House votes to increase the federal debt limit for a couple more months. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with more on what that means and the latest on the president's legislative agenda.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
A new soybean processing plant will bring jobs to southeast Kansas and expand markets for area soybean producers. This is KOAM News at 5. Montgomery County, Kansas commissioners have approved industrial revenue bonds for a company planning a more than $300 million soybean crushing plant in the county. The Bartlett Company plans to begin construction of its plant early next year and have it up and running in 2024. The company says it'll process about 110,000 bushels of soybeans per day and create about 50 permanent jobs. Promoters say it'll also benefit the area agriculture and rail industries. Doug Eddy joins us now with a first look at the weather.
Hey Dow, not bad for us today. Pretty good day. Temperatures fairly pleasant across the region, but we do have more thunderstorms in the forecast actually every day for the rest of the week. Of course, we had the severe thunderstorms, the heavy rains late Sunday night into Monday morning. Most of us are good right now, but you can see a few showers and thunderstorms trying to sneak in to our western counties. These are mainly going to shoot northwest of us, kind of near Kansas City, but we are going to get a few scattered thunderstorms this evening in the southeastern Kansas and northeastern parts of Oklahoma. But it's what's behind that out across western Kansas, which is really going to give us a bigger batch of showers and thunderstorms later on tonight as these actually start to get going. So for the evening hours, just some hit and miss showers and thunderstorms, but our rain chances will increase, especially after midnight for us tonight. I'm going to break this all down for you here in just a bit.
Catch you then. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi hopes for unanimous support today from House Democrats as lawmakers take up the measure to increase the federal debt limit till December 3rd. If passed, the White House says the president will sign it. The Treasury has said the U.S. could risk defaulting on its debts if the ceiling is not raised by next Monday. Skyler Henry reports from Capitol Hill.
The House is back from recess to vote on a measure to temporarily raise the debt ceiling by $480 billion into early December.
This at least allows us to prevent a totally self-made and utterly preventable economic catastrophe.
Unless and until Democrats give up on their dream of a big government socialist America, Republicans cannot and will not support raising the debt limit.
Last week, the U.S. Senate approved the measure along party lines after Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Democrats negotiated a short-term fix. A temporary debt ceiling increase gives Democrats more time to focus on moving both that bipartisan infrastructure bill and a much larger social spending measure across the finish line. President Biden has lowered his price range on the Build Back Better Act from $3.5 trillion down to around $2 trillion.
I'm very disappointed that we're not going with the original $3.5 trillion. If there are fewer dollars to spend, there are choices to be made.
The move is meant to win over party moderates, but the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Pramila Jayapal, tweeted Tuesday, "People all across America delivered us the House, the Senate, and the White House. We should be doing everything possible in this moment to deliver for them while we still can." Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Congressional Democrats continue to push for a bipartisan long-term solution to raising the debt ceiling, while Republicans say Democrats should do so on their own using the reconciliation process. Both the short-term debt ceiling increase and a temporary government funding bill expire on December 3rd, setting the stage for another possible showdown in less than 2 months. The Biden administration is ending mass worksite immigration arrests. The Department of Homeland Security says it'll no longer conduct large sweeps that often target workers and not the employers who hire them. Instead, the agency will focus on policies that stop employers from exploiting unauthorized workers. DHS officials say the new practices would encourage companies to uphold safety and labor standards and make workers feel safe reporting violations. The Supreme Court heard arguments today in a case that centers around a Kentucky law which prohibited how most abortions are performed in the second trimester. The justices are not considering the constitutionality of the law. It's already been declared unconstitutional in the lower courts. Instead, this case focuses on whether the state's attorney general can appeal a lower court's ruling even after his Democratic predecessor declined to appeal. North Korea is sending a sharp warning to America and its allies, pledging to build an invincible military to protect against what it calls U.S. hostility. In new photos, the country's leader, Kim Jong-un, posed next to his country's most powerful missiles. Kim says the military might is not targeted at South Korea. Some analysts believe the North is trying to drive a wedge between Washington and Seoul. Still ahead, Southwest Airlines is dealing with a fifth straight day of cancellations. We'll hear more about what may be behind the issues. And next in Health Watch, the FDA releases more information about COVID vaccine booster shots ahead of meetings on that topic. Topping today's Health Watch, a late-stage study of AstraZeneca's coronavirus antibody treatment shows promise. The company says results from its trial of AZD7442 shows that it cut the risk of severe COVID by at least 50%. It's the first of its kind to show a dual use in both preventing and treating the virus. AstraZeneca recently requested emergency use authorization for its new treatment. The FDA is posting documents from Johnson & Johnson and Moderna ahead of meetings later this week to discuss booster shots of their vaccines. Meanwhile, another drug maker is asking the agency to authorize emergency use of its COVID-19 treatment pill. Reporter Laura Podesta has the latest.
More than 7 million Americans have already received a Pfizer booster shot. And now an FDA advisory panel is getting ready to consider whether to approve boosters for the Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines as well.
We would like to make sure that their protection is also boosted so that they won't get infections that are even mild, let alone serious enough to put them in the hospital.
Among the questions health experts are expected to address, how much vaccine should be in the Moderna booster? The drug maker says 50 micrograms, half of what was in the original 2 doses, should be enough. There are also questions about when people should get the Johnson & Johnson booster. The company submitted data for options at 2 months or at 6 months after the original single-dose vaccination.
And I think the FDA will look at this. Can you mix and match? Can you start with J&J and finish with either Moderna or Pfizer? The mix and match issues are also on the table.
The FDA is also considering whether to authorize emergency use for Merck's COVID-19 treatment pill. The drug maker says early trials show molnupiravir cut hospitalizations and deaths by about half.
Just imagining as a primary care physician the power of an oral outpatient medication such as molnupiravir, it would be a remarkable game changer.
The drug is targeted at unvaccinated people who have already developed symptoms. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
The White House has already put in an initial order for 1.7 million doses of the Merck pills. A new study finds people who took a common water pill had a significantly lower prevalence of Alzheimer's disease compared to those not taking the drug. Researchers from the National Institute on Aging say more studies need to be done, but the evidence suggests bumetanide may be a candidate to treat people with a genetically higher risk of the disease. Almost half of adult breast cancer patients in the U.S. use marijuana and hemp, but most of them don't discuss it with their doctors. That's according to research published in the Journal of the American Cancer Society. Investigators found 75% of those who reported using cannabis found it to be extremely or very helpful at relieving their symptoms. A new study in the journal Pediatrics finds healthy infants born during the COVID pandemic had substantially shorter hospital stays than those born before the pandemic, with no change in readmission rates. Researchers say the findings suggest shorter hospital stays for healthy term infants may be safe even outside of a pandemic. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, going to check out the latest exhibit at Crowder College's Longwell Museum.
Plus, it looks like showers and thunderstorms increasing a bit over the next few days. We're going to look at that coming up. Well, it's turned out to be a pretty good Tuesday so far for us today. Temperatures not bad. We've had some clouds kind of streaming in over the past couple hours, but overall it's been a nice fall afternoon. But we do have some scattered thunderstorms out there on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side. You can see this batch kind of lifting off toward the northeast at a pretty good clip. But if you live in Kansas or even northeastern Oklahoma, there are going to be some scattered thunderstorms during the evening hours. I don't expect any of these to become severe, but you can see there is quite a bit of thunder and lightning, one starting to push into Chautauqua County, and then there's another little guy near Tulsa. So these are all going to lift northeast. I really don't think it's going to affect many people on the Missouri side, but then we'll get some changes a little bit later on tonight. So we got this little cluster near Tulsa that will lift into northeastern parts of Oklahoma, and then of course we got these clusters out across southeastern parts of Kansas. Just kind of moderate to strong thunderstorms, but nothing severe, which is good news. Temperatures look pretty good. Most of us are sitting upper 70s to near 80 once you get down into northeastern Oklahoma, extreme southwestern parts of Missouri. So a very nice day. A little windy. We have these southeasterly winds, 10 to 15, upwards to 20 miles per hour at times. Looks good. 7th and range line currently outside, 78 east, southeasterly winds at about 15. Humidity is really low. Relative humidity is at 39%. Through the evening hours, we slide back through the 70s into the 60s. We'll hold mid 60s later on tonight, but our rain chances are really going to start to increase. So we have this first little batch in central Kansas. Again, you can see the general movement toward Kansas City, but behind that, a lot of severe weather is going to really ramp up over the next few hours, and that's why there's a tornado watch out, and this is across western Kansas. But a big line will develop and then plow across the state of Kansas and head toward us late tonight and then into tomorrow morning. You can see this whole storm system spinning out across western parts of Colorado. Even quite a bit of snow is going to fall up in the western parts of North Dakota. All right, let's go through time for us tonight. Those isolated scattered showers that push through over the next few hours on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side, and then more will start to redevelop after midnight. So we'll get some scattered thunderstorms, again, still mainly on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side. So here's 4:30 in the morning. If you live in Missouri, by this time, you're probably dry most of the night, but here comes that big line. It's going to work into southeastern Kansas and then push off toward the east. Some of these could be strong to severe, low-grade severe, late tonight into tomorrow morning. So 5, 6, 7 a.m. And the line will start to fall apart as it works through, but most of us should get scattered thunderstorms in here during the morning hours tomorrow. And we may even see a few additional ones try to pop up again as we go into the afternoon. 66 to start, 74 by noon, high temp right around 78 degrees. And then we get batch after batch after batch. We'll get more showers and thunderstorms in here late tomorrow night and then into Thursday morning. So it stays pretty active all week long. Thunderstorms late tonight, tomorrow morning, and then again scattered on Thursday, and then one last batch Friday morning. And then look at our nice fall weekend. 68 Saturday, 75 on Sunday.
Liking those temperatures.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
The weekend. Thanks, Doug. The Longwell Museum at Crowder College in Neosho is displaying pieces from its permanent collection. It's titled the Museum Vault Exhibit. The museum is showing artwork it owns rather than pieces borrowed from artists for exhibits. The museum is free. It's open to the public Monday through Friday.
We call our collection, our private collection, the Vault. And what that is basically where we store our most prized artworks that we have in our collection. And really what we're trying to highlight is, the substantial art history that is connected to Crowder College and the Longwells themselves.
Now, Crowder College does recommend that everyone wear masks on the campus, but masks are not required. Coming up, the 5th straight day of Southwest Airlines canceling hundreds of flights. First, though, we honor a local World War II veteran. Wallace Pope served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1943 to 46. The Iola, Kansas native was stationed in Japan and New Zealand, and we salute Private First Class Wallace Pope, a 4-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the mood of small business owners slipped in September. According to the National Federation of Independent Business, optimism fell a full point to a reading of 99.1. That is the lowest level since March. Optimism sank as small business owners complained about difficulty finding enough staff. Businesses also say they can't get parts and supplies fast enough to keep up with demand. The major shippers are out with their holiday deadlines. The U.S. Postal Service says ship by December 17th for first-class mail and first-class packages. You have until December 18th for priority mail. FedEx says ship by December 9th for ground economy, but you have until December 22nd for 2-day shipping. And UPS says if you want to get your gift there in time for the holidays, ship by December 21st for second-day air. Southwest Airlines is experiencing a fifth straight day of widespread cancellations. Yesterday, 435 Southwest flights were canceled, bringing the total above 2,000 since Friday. Reporter Errol Barnett is looking at what may be the cause.
It was a shock. There was definitely a panic moment.
Julianne Maddox, Heather Jones, and their friend Laura Flint spent the weekend in Austin, Texas for a friend's wedding. When their Southwest flight was canceled, their best option was to split the cost of a $450 car rental and drive 25 hours back home to Washington, D.C.
The general consensus among everyone was it's easier to rent a car and just get out of town. To start moving rather than waiting till Tuesday or Wednesday to even potentially get a flight.
And they weren't alone. As rebooking canceled flights became a nightmare, some Southwest passengers had to choose between paying for other transportation or staying put for days. The airline has been clashing with its pilots union over its decision to require COVID vaccines, raising concerns pilots could have been walking off the job.
As far as you know, did any of your pilots call out sick this weekend?
We're able now to look back and we have data on what exactly happened. Our pilot sick rates are right in line with what was occurring this summer. So that's a fairly normalized number.
The president of Southwest Pilots Association says there was no planned demonstration.
So outside of air traffic control and weather, you point the blame squarely where?
Squarely on Southwest. I point to how they manage the network, how their IT also supports that network. But once a little hiccup occurs, due to the internal processes, our pilots aren't getting to where they need to be. We've been sounding this alarm for about 4 years and have seen very little approach to correcting it.
Now we asked Southwest about those specific claims and the company did not have comment, but Southwest CEO in an interview on Tuesday said that he saw no evidence that vaccine mandate protests played a role here. Gary Kelly also said, quote, "We are not firing any employees over this." Errol Barnett, CBS News at Reagan National Airport.
The Food and Drug Administration is telling some companies to stop making hand sanitizer by the end of the year. Now, at the start of the pandemic, the FDA set temporary policies for non-drug manufacturers to produce alcohol-based hand sanitizers for the public health emergency. Today, the FDA said traditional suppliers have increased their supply, so the administration is withdrawing the temporary guidance. Companies manufacturing alcohol-based hand sanitizers under the temporary policies have to stop by December 31st. A final check of the forecast next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, more on what a new soybean processing plant could mean for southeast Kansas. Plus a court ruling on whether people who don't live in Missouri can own medical marijuana facilities in the state. And we're going to check out some tornado damage in Oklahoma. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. A 1,500-year-old wine factory the size of a modern-day football field has been unearthed in Israel, showing how vintners met demand for high-quality white wine popular throughout the ancient world. The site was excavated in a city 18 miles south of Tel Aviv. Officials say the cluster of 5 wine presses was once able to produce about 530,000 gallons per year. The dig team also found dozens of wine jugs, which were made in large kilns on site and able to hold multiple gallons apiece. I don't know if there were any traces of wine still found in any of those jugs, but 1,500 years, it would be well aged.
That's true, and I guess we know what their priorities were back then, too.
I guess so. That was a large operation. Chances, well, more than chances, likelihood of storms tonight.
We're going to get some scattered thunderstorms on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side this evening, but most of us will get into the action late tonight into tomorrow morning, and thunderstorms sticking around the next few days.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right back here for KOAM News at 6. Let's make it a great evening.